everybody. We are back. Groomed.Connect. I've got Brian here. Brian.
Hey, everybody.
And we have a special guest today, my friend Matt Hamilton. Say hi, Matt.
Hello, everybody.
Matt is a teacher up in Michigan, in the East Jordan area, Charlevoix area. On the thumb, on the hand, it's right. Where is it? It's over here, right?
There. Wow.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Everybody in Michigan does that. They have to put the hand up and show you where they live. It's really kind of bizarre. But anyways, yeah, Matt's been up there for his whole life. He's lived up in northern Michigan, and he's a very good friend of mine. I've known him for over, I don't know, almost probably 20 years now. I went up and did a school. I went up there back, when was it, Matt? Like 2006, 7?
2008.
2008. Okay. Went up. They had a crisis. A girl was killed in an accident, a snowmobile accident, and then her boyfriend subsequently took his life a couple of days after that. So we went up there and did spend some time up there. Met Matt. Didn't know Matt. Met him, and then Matt, tell the story. What happened after that?
Yeah, you came, it was just a very dark cloud over our school and community, losing 2 kids within a month. And we're a small school. East Jordan's population is about 2,500 people. Our school system has roughly 750 kids, K through 12. And so it's a very tight-knit, small community. And when those 2 tragedies happened, it was really just a tough time. And you were called in to kind of help us and guide us through some of that tough time. So, yeah, you came in and you spoke to the high school, and at that time I was teaching 8th grade, and you spoke just to the 8th grade. And I remember sitting in the auditorium listening to you talk and just trying not to cry, because I'm not crying in front of my 8th graders. But you just had such a powerful message about value and whatnot, and love. And so, yeah, and after that, I couldn't sleep after. Actually, we'll back up. You talked. I remember some of my kids wanted to talk to you afterwards. So, I stayed in the auditorium until the end of the day, and, took some kids home after that because they wanted to just talk to you one-on-one. And then the next day we talked about you and your message in my class in every hour. And then after that, my students were talking to me before school, at lunch, after school, about issues that they were going through and troubles they were facing and stuff. And, I couldn't sleep and trying to figure out how to help these kids. Because this was, you spoke in late February. It was actually late February, at the end of February there. And, I had my students for 6 months in my class, and they all had smiles and came to my classroom every day. Seemed happy, seemed like they were having a great time. And then all of a sudden I started hearing their stories, and there's a lot going on behind those smiles. So I couldn't sleep, and finally figured out after a couple of weeks to start the shoe club. Just kind of help the kids and give them some skills and help them along life's journey.
So the shoe club, you started, basically it was a way of gathering these kids, right? You wanted to gather them together. You gave them a couple of things to do, like they had to read. At that time, I had the book out, Reinvent My Normal, kind of a shotgun approach to dealing with life. But you, as a teenager, so you had them read that, and then they had to write an essay. And you were only expecting like a few kids to join it, and it really was just a gathering mechanism. But what ended up happening?
Yeah, at that time, and this is again, you came at the end of February, as early March by the time I got everything together and organized. And again, I was teaching 8th graders, which, if you're in education or have kids, middle school kids don't enjoy reading that much.
Yeah.
And so I had them read your book, Reinventing My Normal, and the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And they had to read both those books, write an essay on both of them in order to join the club. And my goal was to have 3 kids join. And I thought it would be awesome if I had 5 kids join the club. I thought, man, if 5 kids join, that would be awesome. So by the end of 2 months later, by the end of the school year, I had 28 kids join the shoe club.
Wow.
And there would have been more, but I didn't have enough books. So kids were, getting arguments like, hey, hurry up, read that book. I need to read the next book and get that book and hurry up and turn it in. And so it was pretty incredible to have 28 kids read 2 books like that and get their essays in. And so I knew that kids are, kids want to get better, and they want to learn, and they want to grow. And They just oftentimes don't know how or what to do or where to go. And so here's an opportunity for them to do that and to get better. So it's pretty neat.
And so one of the things that Matt did with the shoe club is that he contacted famous people and like Michael Jordan, Kobe. I mean, the obvious ones: Tony Hawk, Justin Bieber, different ones, even local heroes, and asked for their shoe, which is kind of an odd thing to do. But he has over 200 celebrity shoes hanging up. Describe some of the shoes that you have, Matt.
I have some of them here with. Would you like to see some of the shoes?
Yes, we would.
That'd be
So
awesome.
actually, just this week, I got this is Mayuchi Prada, the owner of Prada, the brand Prada, which is I just got these shoes this week. We got Charlie Duke, who was the 10th man to walk on the moon. There's 12 people that's walked on the moon. These were his running shoes that's turned into his fishing shoes, and then they got too old for both those things, so they sent them to us. Just last month or so, we got Paul Stanley from the band Kiss.
Oh, nice.
Just pretty unique shoes there.
I got to get a pair of those, Mike.
I've been wearing them every day. Sweet. Bruce Springsteen's boots that he wore on stages all over the place. We got Kobe Bryant sent us a signed pair of shoes here.
Nice.
Last year we got Michaela Schifrin. She's the
All
best
right.
alpine skier that's ever skied.
I'm a huge Michaela Schifrin fan, so
Are you really?
I am.
She sent us a pair of boots last year that she won a world championship in these boots in 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible role model. Jane Goodall, who's you can't help but love Jane Goodall, as well as this is one of the favorite shoes in the collection from everybody. This is Dolly Parton's shoes that she wore. Her rock and roll album came out last year, and she wore these while recording that rock and roll album there. Bernard Lafayette. I try to get a wider range, so I have inventors and athletes and business people and all kinds of different walks of life there. This is Bernard Lafayette's shoes. Bernard Lafayette was with Dr. Martin Luther King on the day he was assassinated, and that guy was just an amazing story of resilience and perseverance and whatnot. And then this thing, I'll back up here. This is Shaquille O'Neal's.
Shaq.
It's massive. So
Look at that thing.
it is huge.
You could camp in that thing.
Yes, this is Dolly Parton. So those are some of the neat shoes that we've gotten in. But again, everybody has a story, and it's interesting. When I get the shoes, I share their story of perseverance and resilience and how they became successful. And we don't glorify the person or their success. We try to glorify that journey that they took to get there. And because a lot of these people grew up in poverty or single family homes and suffered abuse and different things, and I try to find the story of how do they overcome those things and how do they how do they get to be who they are today, and so anybody can do that. So it's teaching.
And that's so cool that the kids get to hang their shoe up. If they do all that criteria to get into the shoe club, they turn in their shoe and then they put their shoe up with their heroes or some of these famous people. I think that's amazing. I mean, I think that's just such a great visual, for them. So it's been awesome. You actually have been featured on was it the public radio? They did a segment on the shoe club, and you
should be through Mount Michigan. We should be on NPR any day. Hopefully next week we'll be on NPR. They have the story. They're just waiting to air it. So that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, there's a few other things going on in the world right now.
It's a busy time in the news.
Yeah. But awesome. I mean, I listened to the story and because it was aired on the Michigan public radio, and but now they're going to put it on national. And wow, what an honor, Matt! And also, Matt won't tell you this, but he is Michigan Teacher of the Year, and up for as actually a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year. He's one of 5. Won't find out till what, February, Matt?
Yeah, yep, exactly.
February. He's going to find out whether he is a national teacher of the year in the country. So
Wow.
Matt's
Nice.
an amazing guy, very good friend, and so I wanted to have him on here not only because of what he does with the students and the shoe club, but he's also a husband and the father of two amazing girls who I've known since 2008. They were young, they were little girls back then, and now, so Maylee's a sophomore or junior in college.
So she's a sophomore at University of Michigan.
So, Matt, we wanted you on not only because of what you've done as a teacher, but you are a, a dad, and you've got two beautiful girls. One's in college. Maylee's a sophomore at University of Michigan, and Gabby is a senior at East Jordan. And so last week we did a podcast on basically we were talking about the church and some of the rules and dogma that we pushed our kids to adopt in the church world. And I know you're a Christian, and you go to church and you raise your kids in a Christian environment. So we just wanted to pick your brain on this whole topic of helping our kids with the privilege of processing their own convictions, processing their own values with your guidance. So you watched that podcast. First of all, what was your impression of the podcast?
Oh, it was great. Great information, great things discussed. I wish, more people listened to that and discussed that and thought about it. And just I guess we'll say, fascinating stuff to think about. That I think as a parent or as a community member, as a church, you don't think about that stuff, I guess, as you're going through it and you're in the middle of it, and kind of it's a lot easier to reflect back on the things you guys talked about and say, okay, man, I screwed up here, I did a good job here, or whatnot. So for you guys to discuss those things and make people aware about it in the middle of whether they're parenting or coaching or teaching or whatever, or a youth pastor at a church is extremely valuable.
So when you were raising your kids and you wanted them to, have these, you're a teacher and you're a community member and you're a prominent community member. I've been up there. Everybody knows who you are. Did you feel pressure, or were you aware of the fact that your kids might be in this fishbowl and watched? And how did you manage that tension with them?
That's in the 2 weeks that I couldn't sleep, and after you came, so back in 2008, so in 2008, Maylee would have been about 2, almost 3, and Gabby would have been 1. So Maylee would have been 3, Gabby was 1, and that was one of the things. I had 2 young daughters, and I remember, not being able to sleep, and that was one of my issues as far as I'm a dad. If I start this club and I'm teaching these kids to value themselves and value other people and be respectful and dream and all these things, that holy cow, there's a lot of pressure on me because I've got to do those things each and every day. But yet my kids, exactly what you said, are going to be in that fishbowl, and people are going to be looking at that, and they're going to be judging them. They're going to be judging me as a parent. They're going to be, and
Yeah.
that was one of a real big concern for me as I was setting up the shoe club, and I thought, it's going to be okay. I'll just do it, and we'll figure it out along the way. And so, yeah, I think there is a lot of pressure on my kids because, like you said, the shoe club is becoming more and more popular around the state, but we're really well known in our community of what we do and what our values are. And so there is pressure on me to show up every day and live out those values. And then there's pressure on my kids too, because, we all know, it's one thing to be, portray a personality in public and then behind closed doors. And so, my thing is, and my daughters say the same thing. Kids will ask them, "What's your dad like at home?" And they're like, "He's the same he's the same at home as he is in school. He's goofy and crazy. And so sometimes serious, sometimes a lot of times more goofy. So, I try to be authentic wherever I am, and admit my failures and be okay with that. I think that's one of the things is with me is it's okay to fail. It's okay not to do things right, and admit that, and admit that you're not perfect.
Right.
And if you can do that, then it takes a lot of pressure off you if you're, talking, having conversations, or, I think, yeah.
Go
What
ahead, Brian.
I'm interested in your impression of your willingness to admit when you fail, and especially in front of kids, and just living through that in front of them. What sort of impact do you see that having on the kids and your relationship with them?
Yeah, I think it goes back to being authentic. Kids today, especially, because I think on social media, they're seeing all this, all kinds of stuff, and I just don't think there's a lot of authentic living, maybe. I don't know what the right term out there is, but I think people in general like that, just honesty and integrity, and they respond to that because I don't think they experience that a lot.
When you were like, give us an example of when one of the girls or both of them made a mistake. What was going through? How did you coach them? You know, we talked about it last night. When we were talking about this on the phone. Uh, the whole paint spilling incident that happened with Gab. Um, how did you coach her through that without her freaking out?
Yeah, and
Well,
I think that's what I would
tell us what happened first, and then
Okay, and I'll just start by saying too, I think, I'd compare my parenting style to a coach. I coached basketball for several years, and you teach the kids skills, and then you put them on the court, and it's up to them to use those skills to win games or whatever, whatever you coach them to do. And it's the same with parenting. I can't, as a coach, I couldn't be on the court and I couldn't shoot the shots. I couldn't guard the other players. So I had to teach the kids, but I also had to get on them if they weren't doing it right. And then I encouraged them if they did it right. And so it's the same with parenting. So for example, yeah, just 2 weeks ago, Gabby's a senior, and we have a new tradition at our school of the seniors get to paint their parking spot. And so Gabby went to the store, bought a couple gallons of paint for her parking spot, and her and her boyfriend were driving, and one of the gallons tipped over and spilled in the back of her car, and she called us just crying, and she's like, "Dad, it's bad. I just spilled paint in my car." And number one, I've learned to always stay calm no matter what the situation is. No matter what they tell you in life, the as a parent, you should always stay calm, because whether it's the little things or the big things, because then if you stay calm, they're going to trust you and tell you, just trust you. So anyways, I stayed calm and we talked through it. And she was just, yeah, devastated by this whole thing. And by the time she got home, my wife and I were there with some old t-shirts and buckets and water, and ready to help her clean it up. And, all four of her boyfriend and her and my wife and I all pitched in, and, we all had lights outside because it was dark when they got home, and cleaning up this paint in the back of her car. And then we just talked about, like, I think looking at the whole situation, yes, it's her fault. She should have propped this paint up so it wouldn't have tipped over. But also looking at the paint can, when she bought the paint and had it stirred, the company never tapped it down secure enough. So I looked at it as a father. I'm like, I think it's the business's fault for not tapping it down, and it's my daughter's fault for not making sure it doesn't tip over anyways. So you shouldn't let paint tip over. So anyways, we had this conversation about it, and I said, you're going to have to go buy more paint, and the paint store should know what happened. And she's like, well, what do I say? What do I do? And, of course, she's really nervous because she's never done anything like this before. And I said, and then we just talked through it. And I said, when this stuff happens, the paint store didn't do it to you on purpose. So you're not going to be rude. You're not going to be disrespectful to them. You're just going to explain what happened. And they might replace your paint or give you some cleaning supplies, or they might not, and if they don't, fantastic. And if they do, fantastic, and we just kind of we role played that conversation, before she went into the paint store. And so after school last week, 2 weeks, week and a half ago, she went into the paint store and just told them what happened. And then they kind of split the cost of the paint with her, and everything was good. So
Nice.
she kept her reputation. She wasn't rude and disrespectful. And,
But she got the
again,
job done. She got paint, and she got it figured out.
yeah.
I love I love the way you did that. I love the fact that you talked her through, what you role played with her. I love that. You role played with her, and you kind of taught her, what to do. And if there's something like this happens again while she's in college or whatever, she's going to know what to do. She has self-agency. She is, you didn't go in and do it for her. You didn't hover over her, and you could have. I'm sure you even know the clerk. You probably taught them,
Yes.
right? So, or their parents, whatever. But you didn't take over for her. You let her do it with your coaching. I love that.
Yeah, that's, and I will say, my wife and I are, my wife, first of all, is absolutely an amazing woman
She really is.
that I'm blessed to have as a wife, and my kids are blessed to have as a mom. So, and the other key thing is, everything we do together, and we communicate, we're on the same page, even if we don't agree, we agree on whatever the situation is going to call for. So, it's Stacey is my wife, and Stacey and I, team up and talk through all this stuff all the time.
I love Stacey because you're a goofy, and she's like the straight man.
She's got to parent three of us sometimes.
I get that. So let me just ask you a question about that. This obviously wasn't the first time that you've coached your daughter in this way. Could you talk a little bit maybe about how you build that agency, whether it's in your own kids or in the kids that you teach in school, and create the space that they can succeed or fail, but that they've got the space to safely, practice all of these skills that are going to be so important for them as they, become like real life grown up human beings.
Yeah, and I think it's just creating a judgment-free zone where you can, your kids can talk to you and about anything, and you just have a conversation. You don't judge them, but you can also tell them you disagree with them, and in a loving, caring way, and
Right.
they know that. And it's the same with my students, where I have conversations with my students, and I can disagree with them, but I do it in a loving, caring way. I'm not rude. I'm not disrespectful. I don't talk down to them. I try to say. I think, that's what Mike Donahue does, is just getting right. He talks to kids right at their level, he's
Right.
not above them. And, I would say I try to do the same thing with my students and with my own kids.
I think one of the things that frustrates kids is when there's an emotional price tag for honesty. I mean, you said, create an atmosphere for them to be honest, right? A lot of parents don't do that. And in the church world, it's like, if you dare tell your parents that, you're struggling with a sin area, and they freak out on you, well, what are you going to do? You're just going to shut down. You're not going to tell them. And then you've got this secret, this tension between you. But the parent knows that the kid's probably struggling with certain things, but they can't tell them because there's an emotional price tag. And what I've always appreciated about you with Gabby and Maylee is that they're just really, like, when I've been around them, I've been in your house, and I've seen how they act. They really are able to talk to you about anything, boyfriends. You said last night, you said we wanted them to date boys in front of us, because we wanted to kind of coach them. And, so talk about that emotional price tag, and that why honesty is so important. I know you already mentioned it, but why is that such a key thing?
Yeah, I think, and you just touched on something too, as far as parents freaking out. I think,
Yeah.
when a kid comes to a parent or a teacher and they tell them something that's on their heart, their mind, and the parent just, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you did that. Again, the kids just shut down, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk to them. Like, if they're going to freak out on me, like, and so, yeah, I think not always trying my best to always stay calm. And no matter what they say, again, this is with my students or with my own kids. And and again, being honest with them and being able to disagree and having open conversations with them is, and just helping them, manage their emotions and what they're going through. And
Have you heard things from either one of your girls that was not shocking, but like, oh, hard to hear? And what was that like for you and Stacey?
um,
You don't have to give examples or get into the details of your family, but just kind of how you felt when
this one
when so
time, Randy. So I'm sorry. Repeat that question again.
well, just the whole idea of like you heard things that were hard for you to hear, and you had to put into practice that whole thing of okay, wait, I mean, if your kid tells you, they spill paint, that's one thing, but if they tell you, something that that might be a little more crucial, the same principles apply, as far as being on, letting them be honest. What's that like to hear information that's a little more potent than that?
Yeah, I think as our kids grow up, they experience different. I'll say different. Just have different experiences. As elementary, it's not getting along with somebody, or somebody took something and somebody said something to me, and it's kind of the same through middle school. And then as they get into high school, their friends are getting into different, extracurricular activities, and with drinking or smoking or vaping or whatever it is, and and my daughters have always done a really good job of talking to us about those kind of things, and if they were around it or their friends were doing it, and again, just coaching them through that and being open and honest, and having conversations about it, and them not feeling that we're going to judge them. And yeah, I don't know if that.
That's great. The whole idea of this podcast, the first one we did, help my church screwed up my kids, is trying to get what you're just saying right now is, I think personally, kids have a lot of, especially Christian kids, they're in the world, they're being exposed, like you just said, Gabby and Maley were exposed to different things, because they go to a public school and they see these things, and it's, that they're thinking about it. They need the privilege of process. They need to be able to talk to you about it. And what we've noticed in the church world is that even bringing it up,
Right.
to a pastor, to a parent, they freak, and then they shut the kid down. And then there's that dialogue that doesn't get to happen, right? Because the kid can't be free to say, hey, I want to talk about, homosexuality, for instance. I've got friends of mine that are gay, and the church says that's wrong, but I really like this guy. Hey, Dad, can we talk about it? I like this guy as a friend, and I don't understand why the church is so mad at him. I'm just using that as an example, but being able to have that dialogue like that on real issues, right?
Right.
On potent issues. What's your take on that, Matt?
Yeah, no, I think that is the key thing right there. Is I've had over the years plenty of students come to me and say, Mr. Hamilton, I'm going through this, or this is what I think, and I think this, and I've said, well, things I've disagreed. We'll just talk about something I've disagreed with. Well, I said I don't agree with that, and I think you're wrong, or whatever it is. But then the next day, I give them a high five in the hallway. I talk to them, I encourage them, and I love on them. And so it's seeing, whether you're a teacher or a parent, it's kids knowing that you maybe not approve or disagree or even disappointed. We're all going to be disappointed in our own kids at
Right.
certain points, and certain disappointed in our students or whatever it is, or your youth group kids. But you come back the next day and you love, and they know that you love them. They know that you care. And again, you're strengthening that bond between you guys, and that relationship that, even though they know that you're disappointed in them or maybe not agree with them, but yet you still love them, is extremely powerful. I don't act, in a hiffy tiffy. There's that great story I love of you, Mike, in your book, that it's the same concept of that girl that, was just rude to you over and over and over in your youth group. And then you just kept loving on her. And then she says, she eventually came around and said, why I'm mean to, basically I'm mean to you. Why don't you hate me? I'm trying to get you to hate me and you won't. And she, kind of got upset about that and mad, but yet then you pulled her back and she, fully respected that. And that's the same thing. And as a teacher, I try to do that. You know what? We had a bad day today, but we're gonna have a great day tomorrow. And it's that patience and
Christ-like, maybe.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Well,
which is
yeah.
really hard to do sometimes. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
And
Right.
but we've all had kids in our lives, and that it's seeing just like that story there, Mike, with you, that long-term payoff, having that with their own kids. I think that's a lot of times people don't have that long-term view
Right.
of, it's right now in the moment, because that's kind of where our society lives at, is in the moment, and we don't have that long-term view. So I think as a parent, we're, oh my gosh, and it's like, wait, stop. Let's take a minute to breathe. And how you deal with the situation today is going to affect them, next month, next year, 5 years, and then when they have their own kids. So how do you want them to be? So yeah, I think having a long-term view of things really pays off as well
Right.
when you're a parent.
Yeah.
And again, just like that coach, I'm not going to be, when I was coaching basketball, I can't be on the court to shoot the shot. So how am I going to teach them to shoot that shot when they're on the court? And the same thing with parenting.
I what I hear you saying, Matt, is obviously our highest ideal is love, no matter who it is, to love people as best as we can, as hard as that might be sometimes, all the time, right? And out of that, I think what your students and your own kids are getting from you is a real sense that you respect them, even if they don't agree with you, that you're not there to tell them, I'm right, you're wrong, get in line, but that you respect the fact that they are on a journey and they have an opinion that might be different than yours. They might be struggling with something. They might not be where you're at. So I just want to point that out. I really appreciate that about your comments just now. I think it's really important for people to understand that we can do that. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. Love is always over rules, right? And it's about the relationship we have with people, and that we're all on a journey and we're all trying to figure things out. And there's a tremendous humility about you that I can see, that I think is a huge asset to you really having an impact on the people that you have a relationship with. So
I described Matt yesterday to a friend of mine. I said he's like a phosphorus grenade. Like he just it goes off and then it does its work. It's like, like when I speak at a school, I'm a grenade. I bam, I blow the thing up and then I leave. And Matt's like a phosphorus grenade. It goes off, but then it just does its work. It just keeps doing its work. And Matt, you've been a tremendous asset and blessing to East Jordan community, the kids, everybody, and now you're being rewarded. I mean, it's I don't want to keep tooting your horn, but National Teacher of the Year. I mean, even if it's just one of the top 5, the thousands of teachers out there, and you're being recognized because of this stuff, because you're like a phosphorus grenade. Your impact it just oozes all over the place. And so I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be your friend, and thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you. But I will say I have an amazing support system, starting with my wife. And, I think, she has her parents, my in-laws are fantastic people. My parents my dad passed away, but my mom is, my parents were awesome people and fantastic role models. And we are very blessed to have great role models in our life, is to teach us how to parent and whatnot. But also, today, like Mike, you're one of my biggest role models and mentors. And, and I got East Jordan is a great community here, filled with fantastic people that support what I do and come into the classroom and help me out. And I have the kids in East Jordan. I couldn't be at a better school and I couldn't live, work, and play in a better school and community. So God put me in the right place, and I'm blessed.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Matt. Brian, love you, buddy.
Love you guys. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, love you guys. Thank you for having me on today. It's an honor.
Thanks for
All
coming.
righty. See you next week, everybody. Bye.
See y'all.